Welcome to tonight's charting session slash FX replay session. Most of tonight's session is just going to be doing some back testing as I did not trade today. So let's pick a date. Let's just go to earlier this year. Let's go to January or February, whatever. Pick a date here. And then we'll end up going to today or whatever. So let me get this all set up here. Okay. All right. Let's do top down, and let's get into it. So, obviously, starting off on the daily, looking at where we are, again, at all-time highs, continuing to run. So this is going to be good to see, honestly, backtesting today, because this is most likely what price action is going to start to look like for us now that we're at all-time highs. Daily fair value gap to the left of us, although it is tiny, it is still holding. There is sort of this order block that's continuing to hold here as well. Again, this is where our change in the state would be, or actually this would be our change in the state if we do want to look to reach down to this low. But right now we are looking to hold bullish. I want to see where ES is as well. Again, same thing, daily fair value gap continuing to hold bullish, actually bigger on ES. So right now, pretty bullish on both ES and NQ. Looking down at the 1 hour, going to mark buy side. So again, when we are doing these, I do want to be focused just on New York sessions. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to pull up, zoom in here, mark my sell side levels in which I kind of want to see us come back and manipulate. I'm going to find out, oh, let me actually make sure my time zone is on, right? Time zone. Where's New York? There it is. Apply. Okay. So let's mark out New York open, which would be right. We'll mark 8:30. Actually, wait, that doesn't seem right. What is this, 5 minutes? I guess so. And let's go to 8:30. All right. So let's take a gander. ES ended up rebalancing into this 1 hour for value gap. Did we take it? Okay, so we took this internal low that NQ did not take. So we did put it in an SMT here at 8:30. We did already take the internal high though. Going into open again, looking at the bigger time frame, we are very bullish. I definitely think that this internal high is going to be the drawn liquidity going into the day. I'd like to see if this SMT does want to continue to hold though and just see that push up. I would want to see these sell side levels become the draw later on. But we're back in the 5 minute fair value gap. Again, this is before market open, but we'll kind of see if there's any opportunity here. Again, data lows have been taken, data highs, but right now 5 minute fair value gap. Oh, actually I don't want to skip that. There we go. So it comes all the way back down to data lows. 5 minute fair value gap actually gets ran through to the downside. So SMT holds, we come up, take internal high. This is honestly what I would rather prefer to see, because if we want to go higher and the drawn liquidity is lower, I'd rather see New York sell off, go take these lows, and then look to rebalance. 5 minute fair value gap gets ran through to the upside. Now going into open, this could be a short. Now, this is something I want to test. Like I said, going into this session, I want to test some inverses today. And if I was to look at this, I see buy side swept, 5 minute fair value gap get ran through. I would expect to work our way towards this low and these lows going into the morning. So if I was to risk this, again, this isn't a trade that I would probably normally take, but I want to test in the session. My stop would probably be the top of the imbalance and then look to partial, not at this low, it'd be too tight, but I would partial at this low and then look to see runners go to this low as well. I want to mark that low on ES2 though, so I know how far it is on the assets so we can know if there's an SMT that gets put in place. Again, this is also pre-market too. So let's mark out open. So let's see what happens here. So it looks like internal sell side gets taken. 9:30 just opened. Okay, so 9:30 just opened. I actually want to see if this, again, I want to see if this inverse continues to hold or not. Is there an SMT here? Not yet. Again, price is still bullish, but I want to see if this is going to hold or not. Why is my full screen breaking? What the hell? Okay. So this does end up playing out. So internal sell side here gets taken first. Hold on, let me fix my browser. I don't know why it's all bugged out. There we go. So I want to see what happens on the 1 minute here though. So at open, we have internal manipulation at all of these highs in this fair value gap. So now we've come down. If we look at where ES is too, we've actually put in equal lows here. ES already is starting to displace higher though. So when we look at, keep in mind, this is a sign that we most likely want to have morning manipulation to go higher. Because if NQ is selling off here, ES is already seeing a move back higher. Data lows got taken. Now, if we take this low, and actually if we go down here, which is what I'd want to see, I'd want to see NQ go lower to go take this, because then we'll have the SMT on the bigger time frame if we can go take this low here. So at this point in time, I would probably partial, and I'll probably put stop at break even if I was in this position. So let's see if we can get the final move. And there we go. So this actually ends up playing out really, really nicely just off of that 5 minute inverse, right? So buy side gets taken. We have all of this generated sell side liquidity. 5 minute fair value gap gets inversed. Going into open, we have manipulation leg inside of this imbalance in the BPR, actually, because there's a 5 minute fair value gap here. Equal highs get taken. We manipulate it. So there was actually probably another entry at open. If we look at probably a 30-second or 15-second, if there's a fair value gap here that gets ran through, it's not super clear because it looks a little bit choppy. But again, models inside of models here. We have all of this accumulation, manipulation at the highs, and look to see a sell-off here. So at this point in time, this would really be all that I would be looking for if I was in a short. I'm trying to think if there's really a reason for me to want to hold any lower than this. I guess on the 4 hour, no. There is, again, there's always going to be room to go lower, but like we talked about, this is my low-hanging fruit in which I would want to be seeing here. I definitely could see us, I like this 15-minute fair value gap that we could maybe reach into. So I'm just going to say I'll take off 75%. I'll put my stop at break even. We'll see what the rest, if we do want to continue lower or not. But again, SMT now gets put in place, so do keep that in mind. Looks like we're still trying to chop, so we might see a little move lower. There we go. So we do catch the rest of this move, 25% off there. So then this is where I would be out of all shorts. So now, let's reevaluate where we are now. Because NQ ends up pulling back all the way to this 15-second fair value gap. And it looks to the left of us, or 15 minutes, sorry. It looks to the left of us as well that we also kind of have this breaker type of formation here. So I want to see if this SMT is going to hold or not. If we look at ES, we still have put in these equal lows. ES is kind of failing to displace. We have an SMT that is now put in here. So I want to see some more bullish structure start to be put in place if we do want to work our way back higher. So what I'd be looking for here is an inverse towards the upside. Look to see some consolidation start to move. So let's see. I want to see this 15-minute continue to hold bullish. So this would be the first inverse here. So I'm going to test this. This would be the first inverse, as this is the first 1 minute fair value gap that gets ran through in our point of interest with an SMT. So we have an SMT, we're in a 15-minute fair value gap in our point of interest. Now, technically based off of this internal high would be first PT, but I wouldn't be targeting that. I would be targeting probably this high for targets and internally. Again, of course, stop would be, if I'm going to take this, it would have to be at the recent low, and I'd look for a move back up higher. But again, this is a test Would want to see how this plays out. So at this point in time, a lot of what this would be is this now changing the state internally. I think this is a little bit too zoomed in as well, though. But again, I really want to focus on tonight on just seeing these inverses and building more conviction with it, because I actually have been seeing it play out a lot. So a lot of the time, if this internal high gets taken, even though it's so tight, putting your stop to break even and just wanting to see this inverse spark the move is a possibility. But since there's a change in the state here, we could immediately rebalance to this. So I would just say keeping the initial risk in play. I want to see, honestly, if what the bigger time frame imbalance is here that so there's a 5-minute fair value gap here too, right? So because there hasn't really been a lot of accumulation down here for the rebalance, I'd probably just say moving stop to break even once this 5-minute fair value gap gets tapped. So we'll see how the next candle plays out. So there we go, right? So this is what we would want to be seeing, right? Big candle comes in after this fair value gap. Because we have kind of these lows here, there could be a scale point, or if you want to target that move higher. Again, also, I would be seeing that, hey, ES has a big SMT. I'm looking at ES and saying, hey, I'd want to see us go to this high. So my price target on NQ could be ES taking this high as well, right? So I'd, again, be stopped most likely at break even here. And I would want to see us work our way towards that high. So it looks like ES goes ahead and takes that high right there. I'll most likely want to see that last push up, but there we go. Yeah, see it. So my price target of what I should have taken off right here was ES taking that high. You can see right when ES takes that high, we have now a bigger SMT that gets put in. So this would have played out. So this should have been, again, once ES takes this high, we have now that big SMT. So that most likely is where you want to take off the rest of your position there. At this point in time, we'd want to see, honestly, if NQ wants to go lower, because if ES takes that high, I'd probably expect, again, that 5-minute fair value gap. Trying to hold above it, but I'd honestly want to see probably another manipulation leg if we do want to run that. But honestly, I'd be looking for another fair value gap to get ran. But it looks like if this internal high gets put in on ES, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually go back and go sell off to these equal lows that we created. Because keep in mind, ES created these equal lows in the morning. So these equal lows got created, and now that ES has ran higher, put in this SMT, we also probably have just ran through all these imbalances that we just created here. Now, it's not the cleanest price action, but we've had a change in the state. I would be pretty bearish on NQ here and ES, or honestly, ES looks really, really nice too to the downside. So this would be our change in the state. I'd want to see how price starts to form here. But I would want to see this become turtle soup on ES. So do we take this high? I'm watching to see if we do. So there we go. Now, this isn't sell side, but this is what I would want to be turtle soup. Now, if this SMT at the highs wants to hold bearish, right? This would be back to the change in the state. All of these equal highs. And we're in this fair value gap. But again, keep in mind, bigger time frame is still bullish here. We still have this bigger time frame SMT as well. So this is technically playing against the draw. But based off of the internal model, it does look good. But when we look at NQ, again, NQ is looking like we want to see displacement up. That 15-minute fair value gap still holding bullish. The 1 minute's starting to get ran through to the upside as well. It looks like we'll probably work our way towards this. So what I would be looking for here is if ES does want to sell, I'd be looking for the inverse down first. So there we go. We start to displace out. So now I would most likely expect ES to start selling towards those lows, those equal lows. And there we go. So this ends up playing out perfectly. Turtle soup, changing the state, gets tapped for value gap. Again, internal manipulation, all this generated sell side. Sells off, takes the internal equal lows. NQ continues to sell off as well. Again, keep in mind, when this internal high gets taken here, I believe this puts in the S. Where was this high on ES? Actually, price action looks pretty whack technically because this high was past here on ES. But NQ continues to sell. So I want to see, again, if ES now is going to take the SMT low, because that wasn't the SMT low, this was the SMT low. So again, this SMT could still hold on. So now this could technically be internal manipulation on NQ. So that's what I would be looking for here now, is if this low gets taken and we immediately start rebalancing price higher, we have all of this generated buy side liquidity that we've been basically creating if this SMT continues to hold. So we there's a tiny 1 minute fair value gap here that we ran through. But notice that longs are a better option now because ES has taken internal liquidity. These equal lows, but we also still have this SMT in place. So if I'm looking for an entry here on NQ, I'd want it to be that 5 minute fair value gap still holding, but this could be the first initial long entry. And it looks like this will probably end up playing out here. This 1 minute gets ran through to the left of us as well. And it should run through all of this liquidity here. So now I would want this to be inverse. So for me to take a continuation, because I would want to see this continue higher. Now I also want to recognize we did put in another SMT at this high. But I would want to see this act as an inverse to the upside. So again, 5 minutes starting to build some consolidation, 15 minutes looking nice. I'd want to see all of this become low resistance liquidity. All of this become low resistance liquidity. So then if I think all this is going to become low resistance, I want to see if there's a bigger time frame fair value gap that aligns with it, and there is. So this 30 minute fair value gap is where I'd want to see the draw on liquidity be. So since we're in this inverse, doesn't look like a bad long opportunity. Probably put my stop down here. Targeting 30 minute inverse. And there you go. So all this low resistance ended up playing out. Rebalances into the 30 minute fair value gap. Again, SMT on the bigger time frame still holds. 15 minute fair value gap still holds as well. We had the internal manipulation. Once that fair value gap to the left of us got ran through, I used it as an inverse once we came back and to go run all this low resistance. Now keep in mind, you could definitely hold your position here because on a bigger time frame, if this 1 hour gets ran through, there's a lot of room to the upside. So also, this is a Thursday. So the profile so far this week, I don't know what it is. I can't tell. I'm not going to be focused too much on the profile right now, but I kind of want to just. So a runner, honestly, going into the rest of the day, and honestly, the overnight session isn't even a bad idea because we are pretty bullish now, especially if that 1 hour continues to get ran through, which I'd expect it to. I want to take a look at ES here. So ES runs back new highs. Again, bigger time frame draw on liquidity is the highs up here. So 15 minute looking good so far as well. Again, we're still in that 30 minute, but I would be really bullish right now. And again, you can see, yeah, rest of day. Wow, those runners would have really played well. And these are the times in which you most likely should leave a runner on because clear draw on liquidity on the bigger time frame, clear manipulation on the bigger time frame. We're in the bigger time frame imbalance. SMT, we've had the manipulation on the internal price action. The fair value gap's been ran through. This is a really nice opportunity for just letting a contract go. At least like maybe 10-20% of the position left, depending on what you're aiming for. But this would have been really nice. Internal high gets taken. Most likely just expect continuation rest of the day, but keep in mind ES has already taken that high, but I would still most likely expect NQ to continue. Nice expansion. Again, NQ's lagging a bit. ES is looking like it's taking control most of the time, as it has been the day. This becomes internal turtle soup. So now this could be where NQ may want to speed up and catch back up to the upside where ES is. We do end up taking this low. We do end up putting this SMT in. We are in this fair value gap as well. Now, even though we have taken, oh, actually, no, we have equal highs here. So this would actually be a soup entry. This wouldn't be a bad little soup. And the extra confirmation I would look for here is that 1 minute getting ran through, which we do get ran through here. So this wouldn't be a bad little opportunity as well with tight risk. 1 minute. Taking a little continuation. Equal highs above. Fair value gap gets ran through. Stop at the low. Looking for equal highs. Most off here. Let the runner go. Let's see if this ends up playing out. turtle soup, SMT. Fair value gap gets ran through, holds inverse, high gets taken. This is where you're most off. And then, of course, bigger time frame draw as that internal high. When we look at the 1 hour, it's pretty confident that we want to go there. And that's where I'd most likely be looking to runner. And there you go. All off there. Really, really nice. Again, this is a beautiful price action type of day as well, though. So really, really, really clean. At that point, again, objection taken. Clear the charts. Let's go next day. But a lot of opportunity today. A lot of opportunity out today. Okay, let's mark out. 9:15. Start at 9:15. Speed up the chart. Let's see what happens in the overnight session. Big expansion. I believe this is the Friday as well. So, oh, okay. So that was 8:30 news. I believe this was 8:30 news. Yes, it was. Okay. So, big displacement move back down. When we look at the 4 hour, there's not any imbalances here. We have just ran through, though, all of this big 1 hour fair value gap, though. So all of these internal price range, I want to see where how much ES displaced. Oh, ES is rebalancing to the 1 hour. Okay. So I would be, again, looking for pretty much the same thing that happened yesterday is, I believe this SMT gets put in. Technically so, because that low's on. If we look at this internal low. Now, keep in mind, when we have a big down close candle like this, very rarely do we inverse this at open. Very rarely do we do that. We most likely rebalance and continue lower. So one thing I want to keep in mind, though, is we still have this SMT now gets put in place. But one thing I want to be weary of is because internal buy side was taken and because this 1 hour fair value gap got ran through, I could expect us to go all the way back down to these types of lows. So I kind of want to look at market open, especially since we had 8:30 news, and see what we want to do. I'm going to mark out 8:30 high and just kind of back test and watch how price wants to draw towards this if we do want to draw towards it. But let's watch going into opens, kind of see what happens here. So it looks like we're immediately having an imbalance that gets created. SMT still here. I want to draw this in. Again, we will look at the 1 hour. This still looks very, very bullish to me because rebalance to the 1 hour, still targeting buy side. This most likely probably becomes soup. Where's open? What is it, 920? Okay. So what I'd probably be expecting is if we do want to soup this and have this be soup and we put in an SMT, I would be expecting probably an up leg move going into open. There's probably a fair value gap here, which there is, which there's also a change in the state. So actually, this isn't a bad long going into open, to be honest. 3 minute looks really, really nice as series of down close candles, changing the state in this fair value gap and internal soup. So SMT here, bigger time frame SMT, sell side as well. I would want to see 8:30 data highs become the draw on liquidity, especially the way ES is moving as well. So one thing that I could do here is take a position like this and look to see back to 8:30 and then slowly scale out here. And honestly, I would look to see if there's a clear way to mark standard deviation on the 2 minute. I guess there's a little bit. I don't have even standard deviation on FX replay, but what I'm going to do here is if the 15-second gets ran through to the upside, I'll take a long, which it most likely should. So it actually doesn't. So this actually doesn't get ran through. Oh, there we go. But this, okay, ES puts in equal lows though. So equal lows, SMT still in place. 1 minute, was there a 30-second? I want to see if that got ran through though. There's not really an imbalance here. So it's not super clean yet. Market's about to open. At this point in time, I would be pretty bullish. I'm going to go ahead and give this a stab going into open. But again, it's going into open, so it's not the best, but I still think there's a lot of potential for it, at least towards this high. What I would most likely do is put stop in place. Once this high gets taken, I'd put my stop at break even. So what I'd do is I'd probably take something like this. Since we just had this big up close candle, I wouldn't want to see us go back down here. Once this internal high gets taken, I'd put my stop to break even, and either the market goes or we don't. So I'm not going to take it. I'd rather just watch going into open. So let's see what happens here. So market is about to open 1 minute, 2 minutes. So there we go. Move lower. So not validated yet. High gets taken on ES. NQ sells. Internal low gets taken. So now, internal low, SMT. I would want to see this become manipulation, and I'd want to see us go back to the recent high. So what am I looking for here? I want to see those imbalances get ran through pretty much, especially that 2 minute. If this 2 minute opens, I want to see it get ran through. So there we go. Does it get cleanly ran through? It's still holding bearish. So right now there's nothing. Still nothing, still nothing. Again, the only reason I'm not looking to take a short right now too is because there's still an SMT here. But ES now breaks through this, or NQ now breaks through this. So I'd still most likely be watching here. This SMT is still in place, just letting NQ sell off. And it looks like we're just going to start selling off and displacing. So again, like I said, that 1 hour for value gap, the reason I was skeptical on that is because once this 1 hour for value gap gets ran through up here, we could see us go back to this low because there's no other imbalance here. So NQ sells all the way back off. I'd expect that low to get taken. It gets taken. Where's NQ in relationship to this, or ES? ES, again, runs through that 1 hour as well. So even if there's an SMT here, I probably would expect both ES and NQ to run through these lows. ES runs through it, takes the recent low here. Now, this is where I'd want to watch here. So we have had a big move now to the downside. I want to zoom out, and I want to recognize, is there a daily? What is here that gives me conviction? 4 hour, we're in a previous 4 hour fair value gap. There's still a lot of generated liquidity down here. Even though we have taken it, there's a lot of low resistance down here. If this fair value gap continues to hold, I need to know if there is an SMT there though. But I want to watch this because again, this kind of looks like 4 hour change in the state, but it also doesn't look, if these lows were taken then. So we'll kind of just watch here. But I want to see if this 15-minute candle closes like this, like a CRT close, then we'll see a reverse back up. But I believe, was that, what time is it also as well? Oh, we still have time going into the day. How does this 15-minute candle close? I want to see how this 15-minute candle closes. Okay, so this is a reversal candle close. So we're in the 4 hour fair value gap. 15-minute candle closes inside of this previous range. I would expect, this is basically CRT, and this will backtest and show you basically what CRT is, but I would expect at least back to discount of this candle. So this candle, discount, candle high. Candle range 3 basically says if we close back, this candle at least goes to equilibrium and then potentially goes back to the high of this. So if now I was looking at this and I was like, okay, how can I take an entry from this? There's really not a lot of opportunity for me to. This 1 minute kind of gotten ran through. It kind of looks like a inverse. So we'll give it a shot as a test. Stop on this. I'll probably put my stop like here, and I'd be targeting equilibrium and then letting runner go if we do want to. But we end up rebalancing back down. And there we go. Whew, look at that stop. So back to equilibrium. Take off 75. What would I be looking for continuation-wise? Back to the candle high. Stop at break even on the rest of the contracts. Now, I want to also see, did ES take this high? ES did take this high. We do have an SMT. I'd probably scale out another half here on the last, and then we'll see if we want to continue. Looks like we're kind of just chopping. And there we go. And that's where I'd be all off. So that ends up playing nicely. Again, these inverses are fucking aligning that with CRT2 is really, really nice. Okay, what time of day is this? 14. So I'd probably end day here and then go next day. So let's do find 9:30. Actually, we'll mark like 9. Let's speed us up here. Okay. So about to go into open. What happened in the overnight session? 1 hour fair value gap still is trying to hold bullish or bearish, sorry, as we rejected that. This to me looks really, really bearish on ES. I want to see ES become these equal lows, especially since we tried to come back, tap this fair value gap. This change in the state held bearish. So I'd look to see a move down here. So going into open, what would I want to see? Well, this also becomes internal change in the state. We also have this big fair value gap here. So going into open, I would want to see a move higher to go run into this imbalance, look to see if an SMT gets put in place at these internal buy side levels, and then look to see a move lower. Now, I also want to recognize, do we still have the SMT on the bigger time frame? Or just in general, this low was not taken on NQ. This one technically is, but I still would want to see these equal lows get taken on ES. So NQ, this is where I'm looking for price to reject. This looks really, really clean. So this is what I'm looking for right here. Watch this. This is my point of interest, which is the old change in the state, which is right above internal buy side. So going into the open, I want to see a move higher, take that high, and look to see a sell-off back down and put in an SMT. So I'm looking for open, move down. So actually, this is never mind. I take it back because we have more time going before going into open. Wait, what time frame am I on? Oh, I'm on a 15-minute. That's why. Let me zoom back in. Okay, 5-minute. Oh, okay. 9:30. All right, here we go. Market open. Let's look at the 1 minute. So market opens. We have a move higher. First move lower, 1 minute change in the state. So the first time that I watch this, right, the first thing I want to recognize is this could easily be too zoomed in. SMT put in place. What would be the high confidence entry here? 5-minute inverse. Could you scale in at this point in time? Absolutely. SMT's already gotten put in place. But we could also be too zoomed in. So I would probably take first initial entry. If I get stopped, I'll re-enter. Stop at the high. Where am I looking for? First PT. This internal low. Second PT. Third PT, 4 PT. So we'll see if this gets stopped early. But again, SMT gets put in place. Looks nice. We'll see if we want to run higher. Morning manipulation. So if I'm looking at this point in time where we are right now, a potential add and what I would actually be looking to add to this position, if this internal high or if there's an SMT here that gets put in and there's an imbalance that gets ran to the downside, I'll actually add to this position about where we are. So if I'm looking at this, number one, I have confidence ES is going to sell here because this first fair value gap gets ran. So I would expect this at least to go to these internal lows. So if I zoom in, and I can look at this and I say, if we take this internal high, I'll look to add to this. So we'll see if we do. So watch. Let's see if we do. Waiting. Boom. This high gets taken, which makes me believe the change in the state that was created, which is now here on the bigger time frame, I would still be bearish. So this would be turtle soup. What I would want to see be turtle soup. 5-minute fair value gap, rejection. If we displace back down, I add to this position and I move my stop to break even. So what I do is watch the reaction. I want to see a fast, sharp move back lower. Again, notice all of this generated sell side liquidity. This becomes sell side. Again, zoom back out. Still looks really, really good here. I want to zoom out until this becomes one imbalance. 2 minute. If this gets ran through, I add to this position. Waiting. No add. So now my stop's at break even right now, as I was a tick off from taking off here. No add here. There's no add. Right now stop's at break. Keep in mind now this might become an inverse. So if I'm looking at this, I want to reevaluate this and say, okay, 5-minute fair value gap's trying to get ran through. There's a 15-minute here, though, that we're still trying to hang on. So I'm just going to take this off so we can actually see it better. Oh, there's not a 15-minute, so yeah, that's why I couldn't even see. 5-minute gets ran through to the downside. I need to see this get ran through to the downside. This could potentially be an add. But I'd want to see this become change in the state first. Move lower. This is when I'd be looking to add to this position. If we rebalance to that fair value gap, I'll add. Right here. Boom. Let's say I add double position. My fill then gets moved to around half of this midpoint. So this is what my trade now becomes. And my stop gets here. And my target's here. And I let my runners go. And I'll take off half of the position I had here, and I'll let the rest run. And now I get to go to bed happy that I just banked. So this is a really good example of being patient and just waiting for the add of the confirmation in which we actually need to see for this bias to play out, right? This continues to play out. Everything happens here where buy side gets taken, SMT. Once this first initial fair value gap gets ran through, like we said too, bigger time frame bias, as all of these lows get taken, there's still so much room to the downside. So we also got to recognize, okay, what's the time of day? Is there an SMT that gets put in place here now? There's so much room. So at this point, I would look to take off all the position I just added here. Now, keep in mind, realistically, if I was in this position, I would be all out here. Like realistically, I would be all out. I don't like really swinging. I might have some positions on, but in relationship to this model, I definitely would probably hold on and just have the rest be, because again, we're aligning the draw here, and I think this looks really, really nice. So I would be still looking to see this low and then the next low, and then take out probably the next half here. So there we go. I'll take off 75% there and let the rest go. Oh, I didn't realize. Sorry. ES took this, so I would be all out. SMT at the lows. Really, really clean though. That is a plus setup for sure. All right. Next day. Whew. Okay. All right. What are we looking at? At this point in time, I'm probably pretty bearish. I'd want to see us most likely go back to this recent low. When we start to kind of have slow PA like this, again, one thing we got to keep in mind, consequent encroachment. But 4-hour fair value gap is acting now as an inverse. We have another overlapping 4-hour here. Order flow of the week has been bearish so far. I would want to see most likely a continuation lower. So I want to see it. What imbalances are we rejecting? Consequent encroachment of this wick. So I'm going to draw out the midpoint here. Consequent encroachment of the wick. We're in a 30-minute fair value gap. If we have a change in the state to the downside, which becomes this 5-minute, I would most likely be looking for a continuation lower. So buy side gets put in place, internal manipulation here. This becomes the change in the state. So if there's an SMT that gets put in place at these highs, it would be very high probability. So for example, this high. But let's see what happens going into the open here. We have some time. So we're watching. We do not close below. All right, look how tricky this is here. We do not close below. Market opens. We displace higher. So let's see what we want to do if we want to go hunt these highs. Ooh. Tricky, tricky, tricky. Okay, this would be an entry. Because what happens here? This would be a scary entry because people think that this is too big of risk. But this is exactly what needs to happen. SMT gets put in. Buy side gets taken. All of these inefficiencies just got ran through. This is clearly manipulation to the upside and for us to move back lower. That fair value gap getting ran through is really all I need to see. I would slap short right now, to be honest, unless you want to wait for just a small rebalance. But I would honestly do something like this. Short this, have bigger risk, because this is a more confident play. I'm fine having big risk because of the confidence of this setup. This would be partials, and I would just let this go. Because that early manipulation, I think this is really, really bearish. Again, 5-minute change in the state, even more confirmation once this finally gets closed below. Which actually, that doesn't even become the change in the state anymore because we had another manipulation like here. But let's see how this plays out. And again, there you go. If you were to wait for an entry here, you don't get tapped. So, half off. Let the rest go. Another half off. Is that the low that I marked? It is. So I'd probably be all out here. All right. One more day. I don't even think this is, I mean, I'm just waiting for this kind of price action. Again, when it's clear, it's fucking clear. But this is the kind of price action that we're waiting on in our fucking sessions. When it's clear, and it's easy to understand where the market wants to go. So let's do one more day, and then we'll call it a session because we just hit on an hour. But so let's go to mark 9:15. Nope. Hold on. 9:15. Okay. And let's see what happens in the overnight. Okay. So overnight session still looking bearish. 1 hour fair value gap still holding bearish. I'm expecting most likely lower prices today as well. Profile has also been bearish. Most likely expecting a move lower. Now, the reason why I can already tell you that I don't really expect to see a high quality entry going into open is because we're already so low to sell side, and we've already had this manipulation leg. So move higher, internal high here gets taken. This becomes sell side. I'm curious to see if consequent encroachment of this wick wants to hold. But if I'm looking at the 5-minute or the 15-minute, what I would want to see for me to take a short is I'd need to see this. Either SMT here or a high here and then move lower. So 15-minute for value gap. Keep in mind this change in the state here of what I'd want to see the rejection be, or rebalance higher, ES runs higher, puts in an SMT, and then look to see a change in the state internally and then sell. So we'll see what happens here going into open. But I'm going to mark out that 15-minute here to have it as well. So we could easily just hold this and then reject. So if we come back up, put an SMT inside of that, I'd most likely want to see a move lower. So let me pull up ES. Low here. Again, this is where I'd want to see manipulation here. Why do I want to see it here? Because it's the second stage distribution of the sell model. We have relative equal highs, and it's inside of an imbalance. So let's see what happens. Again, or we can easily just sell because price is bearish. If we just sell, there's no entry. What time is it? I was like, market hasn't opened yet. Okay, now we got 30 minutes. Speed it up, tap back into the 15-minute. Market opens. Again, so no entry here. So now ES sells, or NQ sells, ES does not. We have an SMT. Now, one thing I'm very sketched out about, though, is when I look at this price action and how bearish order flow is, it makes me less trustable of this SMT because it's not in favor of the draw. So one thing I would honestly just be watching here for is if this 5-minute fair value gap gets ran through, I would expect morning highs since this SMT is still in place, but I probably wouldn't take it. I'd probably just watch it. So let's kind of see here. If this gets ran through, I'd probably expect those equal highs to get taken. So it gets ran through, so we definitely should go take equal highs. Equal highs get taken. This might become changing the state on the 5-minute, but again, it's still something I don't trust because we're so far against the draw, or so far just so far against the overall order flow. But this honestly does not look bad because this can become its own internal model. So the initial highs that we were actually looking for in the morning could become internal buy side, but ES has already taken it. So what does this tell me? This SMT, in my opinion, what I get out of this is because order flow is so bearish, there's a very likelihood this SMT doesn't hold. So what was this SMT most likely for? It was for ES to rebalance higher. Because now ES rebalances higher, goes takes buy side, which is the initial bias in which we were looking for. So the thing that I would be looking for here, because now I'm the difference in bias of what I would want to see is how do I know if I should be confident that this bullish SMT is what the bias is, right? Because if this bullish SMT gets hold, then right, I would want to see all of this low resistance liquidity get broken through, right? And I'd want to see them move through. What's going to tell me that? This 15-minute fair value gap. This 15-minute fair value gap tells me that. So if I zoom in after this internal high is taken, and I see a bear model, meaning changing the state, fair value gap gets ran through, I would expect this to be morning manipulation. In this bullish SMT, we continue to sell off, and we actually break through it. So I would want to be viewing NQ, looking at this, saying, hey, this is still a bull model. I wouldn't touch either side of this because there's a bias for both, in my opinion. I think NQ could play the buy model up to these highs. And I also think that this SMT could hold and we could continue to sell off because order flow is so bearish. So I would want to see, does this 5 minute want to hold bullish? Does this want to be manipulation? What do we want to do? So let's see. So notice immediately what's the sign that we want to sell off towards lows and break the SMT. 5 minute getting ran through. If that 5 minute gets ran through, this SMT most likely gets broken through. Keep in mind as well, we also have internal SMTs here. So honestly, I would be looking at it like this. I wouldn't even be aware of that fucking SMT unless there's a reason for me to. So NQ, again, still looks like we could have the buy model. Fair value gap on ES is still holding bullish. But I don't trust it. We get displacement on NQ. Again, keep in mind this fat fucking bearish SMT here. This is bearish. Fair value gap, inverse, 1 minute, ran through. Now, the way that I would be bullish here is if that 1 minute gets ran through. If this 1 minute gets ran through, I'd probably expect. But to me, I think this is a sell more than anything. Fair value gap gets ran through. This would be my entry short. Order block. ES taps the inverse on the 5 minute. Now stop on this kind of has to be a little bit tight. Even though there's no SMT here, I wouldn't want to see, this is what I would want to see become a breakaway gap. Since we already had displaced through it. I would want to see this become a breakaway gap. And the reason I say that is because of this order block. And since NQ's or ES is retapping the 5 minute inverse. Now we'll see. If we do come back up, and this is kind of how I would approach this, is I would take an initial entry here, put my stop at the breakaway. If we do come up back, tap this, I get stopped, I would look for an inverse back down and then re-enter. This low is stop at break even. And if I did have my standard deviation, I would use standard deviation to find a target. Let's see what happens. So it looks like we're generating liquidity on both ends here. So I could expect us to go tap this breakaway gap and then look to see manipulation and then sell back off. So I wouldn't be surprised here if we get stopped. So here we go, move higher. This ends up getting stopped out. Now, if we continue to hold this, I also want to keep in mind here, this could be a little tricky track. So at this point in time, this would be honestly a big step away point. And the reason I say this could be a big step away point if this doesn't hold is because both of these fair value gaps would get ran through, and that would be my sign to step away. Because now SMT on lows, SMT on highs, 5 minute fair value gap gets inversed. If we don't take these lows and then we inverse back to the upside, in favorable price action, sign to step away. So I would want, for me to take a short, I need to see a 1 minute open up here and for us to displace through it. So this fair value gap here. Right now we just broke back to the upside. This is the only way I could take back a short, is if we come back up, we put an SMT at the highs and we look to see that move back lower. But unless that happens, I can't take anything. So right now, this actually becomes 15-minute change in the day if we continue to close back above it. But I wouldn't be touching anything right now because again, that 5 minute just gets ran through as well. So I wouldn't be. So let's see this 1 minute. So now SMT at the highs again. NQ is lacking displacement when it comes to the differentiation between the two on ES. We come back into the 1 minute. If this fair value gap gets ran through, I would want this to become soup. This high right here gets taken in the fair value gap. I want to see if there's a reason for me to possibly just slap a short here. There definitely is. I mean, the SMT, all these equal lows. I think I'm going to give this one. I think I'll give this a shot. So I'll take a soup entry. Put stop at the recent high. I'd like to see it move lower. But again, the best entry of what I should most likely do in this entry is just wait for the fair value gap to get ran through. Yeah, and it looks like this will most likely get stopped. So this gets stopped. This point, step away. Wouldn't be touching this again. In favorable price action. Inverses on both sides. SMT is on both sides. Looks like the model ends up still playing out. I could have said, again, looking back and say just stop is too tight. But if I was to just wait for the inverse, this would have played out, right? If I look at the 5 minute and I just waited for this fair value gap to get ran through, this would have played out. So again, a lot of the times when we talk about when our biases are right versus when our biases are wrong, our biases are most of the time right, execution's off. If we simply just wait for it to be clear instead of the intention of just having that super tight stop, it'll be given to us like this. But this day isn't honestly a good example of that, just because of nothing was really respected that much. And also a big sign, again, a sign of unfavorable price action is SMTs on both sides of the market, and every imbalance pretty much was disrespected. So, yeah. Not very efficient price action either. All right. Let's cancel it out here. How do I close this out? Let's see how do I end the session? So pretty solid. Again, when the price action is given, it's pretty clear. I'm glad that we honestly ended on that losing day because it was easier to recognize just the difference in efficiency with all the other days that we did versus that one. How are we feeling, guys? Did you guys enjoy that? Did you guys get a lot out of that? Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Mind blown. Love it. Beautiful. Yeah, this will be recorded, and I'll make sure to upload this as well. My 2024 Wrapped. I think my top artist was Drake, but my top song of the year was from Faye Webster. I fucking love Faye Webster. Faye Webster's the GOAT. Inverse is catching my eye even more. Honestly. Hopefully this session kind of opened you guys up to inverses when you can use them in the right way. Because a lot of the time, when you go back and you notice all of the times that we've had our reversal, the start of the reversal is always an inverse. Like it'll literally look like this, even on a 1 minute too. Like for example, if I was to literally look at this and all of the 1 minute fair value gaps that get opened look like this, like this is every single 1 minute fair value gap basically. And then like there's one here. This one fair value gap getting ran through sparks this whole entire fucking move a lot of times. And that's why it's also a really good risk. Because you could take this entry with a tight stop, scale out here, and just let your contracts go. Alrighty, guys. Enjoy the rest of your night. Get some rest. I want to double check news tomorrow as well. Unemployment claims 8:30. Boom. Okay, we have data highs and data lows that'll most likely get put in tomorrow. So that'll be good. All right. Enjoy your night. great session. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you all tomorrow morning. Peace out, team.